All right, so part two, now that those winds have calmed down again, is some more visual methods, and then we'll take a look at how technology can help you determine where the winds are coming from as well. Other really good methods are things like crops. So for those of you who live near farming communities, you can actually look down and read, just like water, the ripples in the crop, whether it be wheat or barley or corn or whatever it is. Taller, thin-stalked crops like wheat or barley or oats, because they're very light, they will ripple in the gentlest breeze. Bigger crops like corn and stuff, well, they're a little more challenging sometimes. They need a little bit stronger breeze to set them in motion. Also, as well, it depends on the height of the crop. For instance, beans, which are really close to the surface, they don't pick up as much wind, so they might be a little bit harder to read. That said, the techniques that we mentioned for reading water actually work almost exactly the same when it comes to reading crops. Now, when winter comes, snow will get blown around. Sometimes this effect can be a little bit harder to see, but there may be cases where you actually start to see things like snow snakes or, gentle drifting. This can tell you a lot about where the winds are coming from as well. Sometimes, though, admittedly, it does take fairly strong winds to get certain types or heaviness of snow to get moving. Flags are good. They're kind of like a windsock. Everybody stand up and salute here as we have the Canadian flag go by. So, flags can tell us. Trees as well can tell us. Often as the wind blows, the leaves will flip over and will actually have a slightly different color to the tree on the upwind side. That said, you need to be pretty trained to actually notice that specific effect. The type of trees can have an effect on it too. Willow trees that are thin and wispy, those are gently and easily moved by a breeze. Meanwhile, evergreens like tall pine trees, yeah, they don't show you too much, and even once they start getting in motion, unless if they're bent straight down, yeah, then there's strong winds. How about smoke? Smoke can definitely tell us where the winds are coming from. And smoke can also show you different winds at different altitudes. For instance, if the smoke is moving gently upwards, so sort of like it is right in here, we kind of know now that, well, this wind is blowing from this direction. But as that smoke goes upwards, if it suddenly goes like that, well, we know that there's probably a very strong wind aloft. So smoke can be very valuable for also showing us the winds at various altitudes. The final few methods are related to, well, you actually observing changes in, say, drift and or, say, your ground speed. Another method I'll sometimes use is drawing a circle across the ground. In this case, what you do is you pick a landmark, any landmark, and then you start a standard rate turn for 360 degrees. At the end of your turn, you can figure out where the wind is coming from by noting where you have drifted to. So let's maybe just go to the whiteboard for just a few moments, and I'll draw this effect out for you. So let's imagine that you've got a little house on the ground here, and you are flying in this direction. The trick is pretty simple. Fly to just abeam the house, and then start your standard rate turn, just like this. What you then want to do is observe where you end up once you end up abeam this landmark. So in this case, I can clearly see I started right here and I drifted to a point over here. So right away, I now know that the winds are from this direction. It doesn't tell me much about the speed of those winds, but it certainly tells me the direction that the winds have been blowing from. So we'll go back to the presentation. Now, remember again, just like we talked about with cloud shadows, that the winds that you experience at your altitude where you try this circle are going to be different from the winds at the surface. Typically, remember as we descend, the winds will back. So keep that in mind. You can also use this circling method with your GPS turned on. As you turn, what you're going to do is keep a careful look at your ground speed. What will happen is where the strongest winds are, your ground speed will be the lowest. So again, I'll typically do a 360-degree turn, and as I do that 360-degree turn, I'll watch my ground speed. I can get a couple of pieces of information out of this. Where the wind is blowing from, but I can also get a good idea as to how strong the winds are because of my ground speed. I take the difference and I kind of cut it in half, and I'm like, okay, well, there we go. That's my speed of the winds. Now, when it comes to the actual little bit about figuring out where winds are coming from, we've gone through all sorts of methods that are lots of fun to try. And you can do these either on your own or with your instructor at some point. That said, admittedly, the more sophisticated models of GPS now, the G1000, etc., they actually do a lot of this wind work for us. I mean, here's some examples from a G1000 here. And you can see that this unit here is telling me a 20-knot wind coming from this direction. You can choose different options through the menu, and you can see in this case it's showing me that I've got a 19-knot crosswind and a 4-knot tailwind. So all sorts of good information can come from your GPS. In addition to all of this here, we can also see that, well, they can also tell us the forecasted winds and as well the forecasted winds at various altitudes. So in this case, we're expecting a wind from the northeast. So GPSs, some of those fun methods that I've gone through there telling you all about, they're maybe making some of them a little bit obsolete. That said, it's still awful much fun to try some of those visual methods. So there we have it. Winds and how to tell where the winds are coming from. In this case, there's probably trouble ahead. You can see this is a thunderstorm, and you can see that shaft of rain there. So I'm expecting that the winds are going to get pretty strong. And just before we close here, take a look at this TAF here. Boy, oh boy, 300, 32, gusting 50. Okay, visibility's bad anyways. But with winds like that, I sure hope you're going to be staying home. Till next time, thanks for watching. I'm Aaron for pilottraining.ca. So we're off air now? Okay, all right, okay, good. How do we get that wind tunnel effect going? Like that was pretty cool. Like oh, exit stage over here? Okay, yeah, it's over here. Oh, like where? Like, let's see. Oh, I see it. Oh, this is how we do it. Wow, who would have thought? Like, check this out. Like, I would have never thought that. This is enough to like get the wind tunnel effect going and fly all that heavy stuff like frying pans and anvils and stuff? No, can't be. We are on a budget though, I know that, yeah. But